featuring Binko with Let's and AT makers. And rather than take up your time with a big intro, you're well known within the community. You contribute a lot back to the community.
So thank you, Luis. How are you? Good to see you again. I haven't seen you since ATIA. We got to fix that.
That's right. We got to take care of that.
Yep. So I hope you guys can hear me okay and see me okay. If not, let me know. I just low on the screen there. So my name is Bill Binko. I'm the founder of AT Makers, and I'm also one of the founders of LessonPix. So some of you may know me from that world. Engineer by training. Went to the University of Florida, 1993, computer and electrical engineering. Worked in IT and software development for many years, and then founded LessonPix as a special ed pre-K teacher. So I kind of married into special ed. I got involved in this, and I ended up at AT conferences around the country, ATIA, GATE, Patton, all of these different AT conferences, because we were so yes, you don't have to hold the Florida thing against me. That's okay. A friend with me who's from Florida State, and that's where my daughter just decided to go, so we're not happy about that, but it's okay. We ended up at these AT conferences, and I'm walking around, and in my head, the engineers doing bill of materials on all these products, and nothing made any sense. The prices were very high. The approach to some of the technologies were out of date in many cases, and I started looking at why and how we might be able to fix it. I don't know that we can fix the big picture problem with AT and funding and things like that, but I did figure out that there were some things I could do. I kind of intersection of engineering. I understood, AT a little bit. I understood visual certainly, and so I could help with AAC and things like that. And so I decided to start a charity called atmakers.org, AT Makers Inc., which is a 501c3 charity that has kind of a couple goals. The biggest goal is I try to teach high school students to make assistive tech. So we try to get them to make mounts for AT switches, to perform Go Baby Go builds, to adapt cars for kids who need them, to automate homes for adults who are living independently but need an Alexa and things like that set up. So that's a little bit of background about who I am and why I'm here. But Luis has asked me to talk to you about 3D, and that's because it's one of these amazing things that has happened in the last 5 years or so. And the ability to come up with an idea in your head, get it out in CAD, and then print it, right? You think of something, you get your idea down in the CAD software, and right here on your desktop, you're printing something, and it pops out, and it's in your hand, right? It is huge, because very often the people that we're serving, they need something custom at the point of service. They need something that may never have been done before, or at the very least is not a commodity. So I'd like to talk about a few things that we've done on this and give you some suggestions on how to get involved in 3D printing. And I'd love any questions. So feel free, if you've got a mic, and if you want to type things in, I'm sure Luis will call them to my attention, and I'll be happy to take it. You can't really derail me on this because I'm kind of speaking ad-libbing here, our points or anything like that. But I have a bunch of stuff that we made and why we did it and kind of how we did it. Okay, I'm going to switch cameras here to start showing you a few things. Hopefully you guys can see that. Everything is backwards for me, so forgive me if I start saying left and right backwards. Probably the first thing that we made as we started doing ADs. So this right here is a tactile graphic. Luis, actually, I think you helped tell me if you could read these in Braille when we were testing these. These came out of the University of Carolina, Chapel Hill, and Lori Geis, I'm not sure how to say her last name, developed these, and they are some standard core words. They're part of Project Core from the University of North Carolina, and if you'll notice each one of these, I have a few around here I can show you. They have a different feel, which it is by touch. They also have the word, and they also have the Braille of what this item is. And you can give a chain of these, and they have a set of of core words that they can use for communication. This is great if you have somebody who's both deaf and blind. This is one of my earliest 3D prints, and as you can see, I didn't quite know what I was doing yet. It kind of came out crappy. You'll see that recently it is an art form. You get better at it as you do it. But if none of you have ever seen a 3D, so maybe I don't know how to show a hand here, Luis, but they've never seen something that's been 3D printed or how it works. So I'll keep talking while you guys respond. But we started by making these, and Glenn Dobbs from Proxtalker to make this one. And this one's a little bit different. It is the same symbol that Lori used, but we actually made it so that it's a clamshell, and inside we put in an RFID tag. And this, we reused one that used to say olives. But this one now is an RFID-enabled 3D core vocabulary tactile graphic. So if you place it on top of a Proxtalker or a ProxPad, it'll say the word. And this is kind of huge. And it doesn't take any people. This will not take us an amount of money. The 3D printers are available. They're in your school districts already. Our STEM grants have paid to put one in every STEM-free high school in the country, basically. And they're sitting idle. So one of the things that I would give as my first tip for you guys is get to know your STEM program. Get to know the high school STEM program in your area, how to use a 3D printer. They already know exactly how to download things and get access to these. There's a couple questions. Where would upper elementary and middle school start? I do doing good maker sessions with App Builder. And where would you get started? So certainly I would try to pair with a local high school, but also your local library has access. Most likely your public library has 3D printers you can access. Real quickly, I'll show you by sharing my screen, hopefully. I will show you some things that you can make that we've already designed for you. This, for example, is a mount for an eye gaze device. So if you've got a Tobii IX and you want to be able to underneath a monitor, you can do that. These are all just parts that you print. Each part has basically a joint, so you can move it around. And it works really, really well. This right here is a 3D printed switch. In fact, I'll cut back over to the camera and show you this for a second. This is a true 3D printed switch. There is no, the only that is purchased is the wire, which actually is an aux cord that we repurposed, right? A standard aux cord. And then if you unscrew this, you'll see that there's a spring and a little tiny 30-cent button right there. And the reality is this is what most AT switches are. They've got a little tiny button and then a housing that makes it convenient enough for people to be able to access them. So this prints in 3 parts. The base here prints as one part, so all the things you see here. And then there's a part which is the button. There's a part which is the shroud that holds the button in place. Assembly is really simple. You just take this. You have a little bit of soldering to do. If you look carefully, you'll see that the wire onto the 2 points of this little tiny button. But it is really easy soldering, right? It is 2 little tiny switches, little tiny solder points. You put this on and twist it down, and it's assembled, right? I did tie a knot in the cord so that it doesn't pull out. And you've got a standard AT jack on the other end. I do teach a lot to do this kind of soldering and this kind of adaptation. So we teach them to always short the sleeve and the ring. That way, this acts like a mono stereo jack. And that way you can buy the less expensive stereo parts, because at this point, the mono parts are significantly more expensive because the demand is so low on them. That there's another mount on the back. I don't know if you can see, but there's a line right here separating this. So this back piece is actually a mount. And it is separate from the switch, same size as a jelly bean twist. And there's a couple other 3-inch switches that this will fit. And what's neat is it actually puts a quarter 20 on the bottom of the switches. So all of this prints from filament, right? And filament costs about $20 per kilogram. It'd be about $3 worth of filament, plus the time on the 3D printer if you're paying for that. Sorry. Or if you want to get these printed, you can go to a service, a 3D printing service like 3D Hubs, have them print it for you. I have a couple other things to show you before I move on. These right here are kind of neat. I mentioned a second ago quarter 20 mounts, any camera, not your cell phone, but like a true camera. You'll notice that on the bottom there is a very standard screw hole that looks just like this one. This is a quarter thread that you can use to attach this to any standard camera mount. So I shouldn't have zoomed in, sorry. Here's a standard suction cup. It's $4.95 on, and I can just screw this on, and now I can mount my microlight switches wherever I want to. So one of the things that 3D printing will do for you is it'll take existing things you make and make them much more effective, very much more flexible, by allowing you to adapt them to something that is consumer available at a reason. Coming up with an expensive mount. There's over 3,500 camera mounts that have a quarter 20 on them at Amazon with 4 stars. So pick up a $10 mount or a $20, the $370 standard switch mount from switch providers. This right here is a very easy print. You'll see this orange piece. This is it takes very little time to print, and it's got one screw that goes into the standard hole on the back of the microlight, and then it creates with a T-nut. It creates a place for you to mount this onto your other switches. So this is actually a really great first project. If you've got access to a 3D printer, the designs are already there. In fact, I'll show you where they are. Our designs are up on Thingiverse. Let me share my screen for a second. So here on Thingiverse, this is a great place to go to look for things. Let me go here. So this is a mount for an eye gaze device. This is just to clamp it onto a quarter 20. This is one for the Big Mac or Big Red devices. They actually take three non-fractional, they're called, but 3 English unit screws, 1032 screws at these 3 points. So we simply made one that took that, converted it to a single quarter 20. This is the one I showed you on the overhead, which is the microlight version. And then we have a few others in here that adapt various things to VESA mounts. It's actually holding a camera here. I'm using this camera at the moment, and it's using a mount just like that. But there are a lot of things that you'll see us coming up with in the near future that will have VESA mounts. Example actually mounts the eye gaze to the VESA mount on the back of your monitor, and then you can go around it. And there's a video here, which I don't think it'll work. Certainly, I need to mute it. But if you look, it holds it right there. So I guess it's kind of good that you can see that. It holds the eye gaze right where you want it. And in a second, I will I'll go to what it looks like from the side. Hold on. And this is all up there if you want to take a look at it. But yeah, here it is from the side. You'll see that this mount holds it around the monitor and under it in place so that it's positioned correctly. So there's a lot of things like that you can do with 3D printing. You don't have to be a designer. We don't have to do, you don't have to start from scratch. You can download the designs as you see fit. I've got a few different types of plastic to show you here. This is what's called PLA. This is the most common thing you'll find in a high school. It's a plastic that's very easy to print with. This one's ABS. It's more heat resistant. This is actually another quarter 20 mount that's on a candy corn. So this makes your candy corn easy to mount rather than use the tiny screws that they give you. So that's very handy. And then this is actually interesting. This is a piece of wood. So this is wood filament. They take wood, they make it so that most of the plastic burns off when you print it. So when you're done, it'll actually take stain and paint, and it feels and smells when you're cooking it, when you're printing it, it like real wood. I think that kind of gives an idea of it. I'm going to go back to my main camera for a second and show a couple other things. All of the things I just showed you were high tech. They were done in Fusion 360. Good note here, Fusion 360 is Autodesk's 3D CAD program. It is definitely something you all should look for educators, nonprofits, and any company that makes less than 100 grand a year. So it is a really great place to start, and it is the best CAD program I've ever seen. It has a lot of things that are powerful and helpful, and I may end up doing more videos explaining how to use it. All of the things you saw here were designed with Fusion 360. You don't have other materials available here that you can use without needing to invest. And so, but first, I want to look and see if there are any questions here before I go into the other material. I'm glad you think the core stuff's great. Proc Soccer's great. Look forward to seeing this on the website later.
There is a question, Bill, about
are there
basically
cheap,
the laser
fast,
printers
and entry level? All right, so you probably have to choose two: cheap, fast, and good. That's generally the way things work. What I can tell you what I spent $850 on a FlashForge Creative Pro dual extrusion 3D printer. That was about 6 months ago. So it might be $99, something like that. I think it is a good entry-level printer. It is $800. So it is much bigger than the little $250 ones that are out. But if you can only use everything that I showed you here, you could print on one of the Micro 3Ds or the other $250 printers. You probably couldn't print the wood, and you can't print ABS, but all of the designs would fit on that model. You just have to choose your filament correctly. And what I would recommend if you want to get into this is to take a look at a company called Adafruit, ADAFRUIT. They've got two guys there, Luis, Pedro Ruiz, and Noah Ruiz are their two 3D printing guys. And both of them are far more knowledgeable than I am, and they're very happy to answer your questions, not just about the printers that they stock, but they have a weekly show on YouTube that you can watch. If you go to atmakers.org, or if you sign up much more actively, the Facebook group is a much more active place. If you just go to Facebook and search for ATmakers, find all these folks are in there. They've joined this group. The maker community is very eager to help the AT community. They're on board. They're 100% with it. We are one of the people that they're working with to try and get them involved with you. Okay. What I was going to say is, if you don't have access to a 3D printer right now, you all should have this. Do you know about Instamorph?
Yep.
All right. You should all have Instamorph. It melts at T temperature, 180 degrees Celsius. Once you've actually melted the way you want, you can then cut it with a saw or a drill or anything like that. I do a lot of stuff first with Instamorph. This is an example. This is actually I made it with Instamorph. No reason to go back and make it with anything else. It's great. You just run 6 volts through this wire, and it heats up, and you can cut your foam to whatever you'd like. I have a that will cut 23-inch blocks as well. I might do a video about that as well. This is actually something that is more probably you've seen before. It's to a user's hand, and it puts the switch exactly where it will help them. And in this case, it actually puts the switch right there, right? So it's on a high leverage point. They can activate it with much lower force than they could if they were trying to do it like this. So this is great, and it takes 10 minutes to make, right? You solder together the jack and the switch. You heat up the instant, hold it into the hand, and then you run it right down the seam. You run the wire out and fold it over and close it. So this didn't exist 5 years ago either. So materials are getting significantly better. Sugru, I'm sure somebody's talked on Sugru. You'll still need Sugru even when you have a 3D printer. And then this is one that I just started using a lot of. It's called Extreme Tape. It's basically a silicone and wrap around, and then it basically cures in a few hours, and it's hard as a rock. It's awesome. So if you can't get direct access to a 3D printer, make sure you are involving the material. It's not that hard to get access to a 3D printer. As I said before, start with your local STEM club. If you don't know who your local STEM club is, you can go first. Let me bring this up and show you this. If you look at the First Robotics website, First Inspires, they actually have a swing. So if you go to the site and say Team Search, make sure you choose the Tech Challenge and the Robotics Competition. These are the older kids. And just type in your zip code. So like around here, 84. What? I'm sorry, they shouldn't have put that button there. That looked like a go button. It's not a go button. Sorry, team. There you go. So I only want challenge in the robotics competition, 34684, and then I can choose my distance. Where is it? Why is it doing that? The backspace it's doing. So there you go. First Inspires. Last time I'll try this. Sorry. 34684 tab, and then I'll get it down to 25 miles. It'll show all of the teams that are near me. I guess I have to hit search. Ooh. Well, this normally works. I don't know why it's not working right now. You can go in here and search for teams that are in your area. All of these First Robotics competitions, they definitely have a 3D printer that you can access. I don't know why it's not filtering this down by my thing right now. I don't think it has to do with sharing, so I'm not entirely certain. But find a local STEM program. They've got idle printers, and they're looking for things to do. They're looking for outreach programs. They're looking for things that are beyond robotics, things that could help them win the Chairman Award, which is their award for things beyond robotics. And they want to help. They've never heard of you. They don't have a clue that AT exists, I promise. I'm building a lot of district, and they don't have a clue that there are people who need this stuff, and they're very happy to help. So, Luis, do you have any other questions for me?
I posted Extreme Tape and Instamorph, so just some great ways to get started with molding some things before you even get to the 3D printing step. So thanks for sharing. To talk real briefly about AT Makers, because I think it's such a great idea what you're doing.
All right.
You're blending some new skills, skill building for our learners. And then you're also having them create something that's useful and that's helping people's lives. So
absolutely.
Can you talk about that real quick?
Absolutely. Let me turn my camera off for a second here. So AT Makers is, the goal here is to introduce STEM clubs and other maker spaces into AT. All of the communication and all of the active work is basically done in people come in here and ask for something. Here's a little boy who has SMA type 1. He has access to 2 switches, and I did. It wasn't like this. I did a switch box that lets him drive his power chair with only 2 switches. So the left switch spins left, the right switch spins right forward. He can't go backwards. He obviously has to have somebody supervising him, but it is something that we were able to make for them. You'll find this is a Abilene Christian University in Abilene, Texas, and it is they're making switch adapted toys. Obviously, we do that with Fast here as well. Lots of guys would love. It is makers making stuff for AT. And you'll see a lot of videos like this, which is a live video of me testing the telepresence device. Somebody made an eye gaze machine for Rett syndrome. All of these are our members who are happy to spend their time making things that will they'll easier and make them more able to do the everyday tasks in their lives. And I would really welcome everybody here. If you're in this group, you're going to love it. AT Makers is going to, we have things that, sometimes it's as simple as this. This was posted by Christine Kramlich from PRC, right? And this is she was just a teenager. Says, I'm so hungry. Your head looked like a big cheeseburger. And this is what we want AAC users to be saying, right? Not, I want cheeseburger. That's not what she's trying to say. So we share things like that as well. So Christine's in the group. I went to Indianapolis. We have a gentleman named Chris Young who makes all of his own. He's amazing. He's 62, SMA type 2. I went and visited him, and he's done amazing things for himself, and he's willing to share all of them. He's never had, like, literally when I asked, what do you use? What switches do you use? The ones I made, right? I made these out of these little jacks that I had. Great. Like that. This is Max. You saw him on the power chair before. We made him a MyPal Scout. I'll show you that here. I happen to have one with it. Let me show you how this works. And this is what we're adapting a lot of these around the. Oh, I got to turn off the share. Sorry. Stop sharing. Okay. So you guys probably have seen MyPal Scout. He's got. He wakes up and you teach him your child's names. What's his name? What's his favorite color? What's his favorite animal? All this stuff. Scout agrees with him or her. And this one is actually MyPal Violet. This is the female version of it. I'm not sure why we had to have two, but we did. Leapfrog has this, and you approach $15. It's like a really good bargain for a good toy. But if you can't actually access these pads, it's useless. So I actually taught a lot of people now how to pull out 4 switch jacks in a Cat 5 cable. It is soldering. You do have to learn how to solder to do this, but soldering is a gateway drug. Once you learn how to solder, everything else seems possible. I did hear them burned. I do tell them you might get burned, but you use a curling iron, you use an oven. It's not hotter than either of those things. It's okay. Be careful. If you burn your finger, it'll be okay. I promise. It looks scarier than it is. So I've taught lots of people how to adapt Scouts. And as Luis said, we are working with the Fast Florida AT Act organization to adapt their toys. And the main reason for that is that last year they had a toy drive for Christmas, an adapted toy drive, and they were only able to buy 30. Adapt them for them. They can buy a lot more than 30. I promise that. So
yep, I can. I looked at the numbers, and just by making them, we've increased, by a factor of like 3 more the number of toys that kids with disabilities will be able to get this Christmas. So
yeah, I think we'll at least break 3. I think we'll do about 4. And then the other neat thing is that so often we intro from other organizations. So we're going to be bringing people from Raytheon to do the tech stuff. Raytheon may just match, right, the donation, in which case then we're bringing in people who isn't chronically broke, right, and is willing. I mean, that's what in addition to being broke, it is broken, right? But both of them are true. When we bring in people from the maker arena, they also have available. Shut up, dog. This is one of the rejects that I have to rework and send out. If I wiggle him enough, he'll start. We test them. What was a failure? She was a failure. So.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Bill. Really appreciate that. You really opened our eyes to the many possibilities that there are now for the commercial products. You can just go out and make your own, which are going to be more unique, more.
They're going to be more custom for the person. The only place things that are dangerous, right? So right. I don't do any medical stuff. The driving the power chair was very much I will teach these parents to do this and for this. So that's right. Why that wasn't a STEM club project. But it doesn't mean it's not possible. And these are just switches. It's just if you're making a switch, your switch can fail. Any switch can fail. These commercial switches can fail. And if the switch fails, it can fail in the on position, right? We design it so that that's not likely, but it can happen. The power chair, you need to be able to stop the car, right? So as long as you go through that with everybody and make sure that whatever they're attaching your things to, they are ready for it or stay off. We've had really good responses from everybody on this.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Bill. I'll let you go so you can get to your graduation.
Got to get to graduation. Yeah. Yes. If you have any questions, you can email bill@atmakers.org. I will respond quickly.